Have you ever seen a McDonald's franchise owner in the McDonald's when you visited? I know it's a crazy question, and I pose it to you because I want to challenge you to think about your business differently. You know, what would you have to do in your business to make a shift from not getting out of real estate, right? We're not going to stop helping buyers and sellers. We're just going to help them through systems and a little bit of leverage with maybe an administrator, a buyer agent, a showing agent. Even if it's a small business, there's a better way to do real estate. You know, my journey was from doing it all, 27 sides in 2007, where I was working every bit of 70 hours a week. I was on my phone, responding to leads, checking emails, working deals when I should have been with my child or my wife. There was no balance in those early days. So how did I go from that existence to working one day a week, serving over 400 families? And since I've been in business serving 4,000 families and only working with about 200 of them personally, you know, I just made that switch in my mindset early on in my journey. Make sure you stay tuned. I'm going to have a special training that will give you the step-by-step path that you can take to do this in your business, to go from busy, overworked, underpaid real estate agent to real estate business owner. If you like the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, turn on your notifications, and make sure you comment so I can keep putting these videos out and I'll know what's relevant and where you're struggling, and I can adjust my videos in the future. We can do this dance together. And so let's dive into the topic today. I want to break down a few guiding principles that I used along the way and that our members use along the way to go from complete enslavement in their real estate business to complete freedom. And I want to talk about one of our members, Dave Friedman. You know, he came into our world the year he did, I think, 65 transactions. So this was only his second year in real estate. And he managed to get busy really quick, the same way that I did when I got into real estate. He figured out lead generation, he figured out how to close clients himself and to serve them. He had a part-time assistant at the time. It was not sustainable. He shared with me publicly, so I can say it here, that his marriage was severely strained at the time and he wasn't giving a lot of attention to his wife. So he knew something had to change, and he was willing to go from, you know, technician, which if you've read E-Myth, it's the foundational book that got me to switch my mindset toward just building a business versus the entrepreneurial myth. In so many industries we can think of, you know, the myth of I'm an entrepreneur. No, you're working 80 hours a week. You're doing the technical work of a real estate agent. You're not doing any of the manager work, and you're surely not an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur builds a business in a way where they bring resources, systems, and people together to solve the problem of helping buyers and sellers at a very high level. So the question is, how are you thinking about your business? Technician work is the job of a real estate agent. That work is mostly administrative. And so if you're spending all of your time doing real estate agent work, at least how it's traditionally defined, chances are you're not going to be able to achieve time and money freedom, and you'll be trapped in the job of a real estate agent. The manager in us is spending a little bit of time building systems and then having people run those systems. So it doesn't have to be a big business that we're going to build. It just has to be an acknowledgement that if you want to get out of parts of the business that aren't highly paid and they're not high dollar activities, you have to be willing to look at the business differently. So few of our working hours are spent as the entrepreneur. The entrepreneur looks at the business differently. They're planning, they're strategizing, they're, you know, designing systems, they're thinking about the vision of the business. So when you look at your average work week, how many hours are you spending doing the technician, the technical work of a real estate agent, versus the manager who's building systems and maybe, you know, bringing in leverage through people to run those systems, versus the entrepreneur where you're thinking about the future, you know, you're picking the next thing to do, you're, you know, implementing tools and systems in the business so it runs more like a real business. So just do an honest assessment of where you're spending your time. It'll serve you well if you're looking to build this business. So let's go back to Dave Friedman and his example and fast forward from the really challenging times with a stressed marriage. Physically, he wasn't spending time taking care of himself, and he was doing really good business. He was the top 1% of 1% in his market his second year in the business. Last year, this was 5 years later, we've been working together for the whole journey. He did 375 transactions. So he served 375 families where he wasn't the technician on a single transaction. So it doesn't mean that those buyers and sellers weren't served at the highest level. He just committed to play a different game back in those early days. The same game I wanted to play, he committed to play. So it was a game of, how do I spend more time as a manager, right? How do I build tracking systems or lead generation systems or recruiting systems or agent onboarding systems, right? He's always thinking about systems. And then how can I bring talent, even administrative talent, into my team to be able to run the systems that I've built? I wish it were more complicated than that. Oftentimes it's this mindset shift that we need to be able to see ourselves as business owners and stop thinking of ourselves as real estate agents. To design an experience for buyers and sellers that they couldn't get anywhere else. Oftentimes, if you're a busy real estate agent, it's likely you're not even giving the best service to your buyer and seller clients. So you think you're doing a great job because you're playing within the guidelines of the status quo in our industry, and what would it look like if you committed to doing business a little bit differently? And how can I, serve buyers and sellers even better than just me doing it with systems and people? So that's the game that I'm challenging you to play. So as you think about your next step in your business growth journey, it's different than anyone else's next step. So I have a few words of encouragement and then a few things to consider. The words of encouragement are, stop looking at everyone else. If you think about a horse running a race, until recently, I never knew what the things were around their eyeballs. They're blinders. Why does a horse wear those? It's so that they don't get spooked by the horse next to them. And the analogy when it comes to business and also life is that we're always looking at the person next to us. We're always looking at Facebook and Instagram and the things around us where people are putting up the best version of everything great that happened in their entire month. They're posting it on Facebook. They're not posting their challenges. They're not posting their profitability. They're not posting the fact that they worked 80 hours or they kicked their dog or they didn't spend any time taking care of themselves physically or spiritually, and they're just in a bad mood all the time. And they're not a good husband and they're not a good dad, right? They're not posting all of those things. That's not to sound negative and to sound like a downer. It's just the reality of what people are focusing on. And so that's the word of encouragement, is just focus on your next right move. Your next right move. It doesn't matter where you start. It just matters that you're going to make the right next move for where you are in your journey. And then think about, for you to take that next move, is it a person, a project, or a process that you need to put in place? Is an administrative hire, or is there like a project I can actually do, build out a database marketing system, or is there a process? Is there something that I do over and over again in my business that I need to stop doing so I can get a different result? If you're at a point in your journey where you just wish there was a roadmap, I put together a 15-minute training that teaches you predictably how you can succeed in real estate, not according to traditional methods or traditional success or the status quo, but what would it look like to free yourself in your business and from your business. Go to predictablerealestatesuccess.com or click on the link below. If you like the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, turn your notifications on, and leave comments so I can make sure I'm hitting you with the right content in the future. I put this stuff together so that you can look at the world differently, and that is the challenge for you, my friend. We'll see you on the next video.